return to Littlesprout's story continued, episode 2. Tonight seemed like any other night. Stormpaw had just gotten back from a night patrol with his mentor Brindleshade. She was deputy now. And with New Leaf in full swing, it was raining almost every other day, and tonight was no different. But thankfully he laid asleep, quiet and not wet. As he started to dream, he dreamt up his mother, Littlesprout, who he wondered what she was doing right now and hoping that she was thinking about him. When suddenly he felt like he woke up, but his body was still sleeping and everything turned white. Once his vision began to become less blurry, he sat up and looked around confused. You see Littlesprout smile and walk over to her son just as he speaks. What is this place? Mother? He asks, looking directly at her. She nods. This is Starkland. I know we have only met in your dreams, but... She looked down for a moment sadly, but quickly smiled and looked back up at him. I wanted to bring you here. I missed you, Stormpaw. The young cat quickly leaped up and ran over to her. Mom! I missed you so much. After a few moments, he sat down and tilted his head. So, do you always see us? He asked. Not always, but sometimes they let me peek down. Her ears quickly perked up. You and your sister have been apprentices for quite some time now, haven't you? His ears perked up. Really? I hope you have been seeing my skills. My mentor has been training me. He lifts his paw, flexing it. He quickly looked down and more serious. Oh yeah, my sister. Huh? What's wrong with Silverpaw? She asked. Well, she's been acting off. I can't put my paw on it, but something's up. Littlesprout frowned. Oh, that would explain why it's been impossible to reach her in a vision. I'm really worried, Mom. I don't like how she's been acting. Littlesprout looked over at her son. She wanted to tell him, but it felt it wasn't the time yet. I'm sure she's just growing up. It's times like this that can be hard for a young cat. Possibly. Hopefully she'll change back into her normal hyper self soon. Littlesprout figured maybe it was best to change the subject. Badger Claw sends his love. He wants to see you so bad. But StarkClan has all of these rules and such. Stormpaw simply lowered his ears. Oh. The mother and son spoke back and forth, talking about ShadowClan and cats that she missed dearly, when suddenly she felt her body starting to fade. My time seems to be up with you, but please. Stormpaw's ears twitched, his heart pounding. She looked into his eyes. You have already made both of us so proud, I promise. Be careful, okay? I love you so much. All right. I'll be careful. I promise, he said, frowning as he buried his face in his mother's neck. He would miss her so much. Goodbye, Mama. His heart ached. He couldn't bear for her to leave again. She could feel tears running down her face, but she quickly looked around before leaning down and whispering into his ear. He is back. Stormpaw's eyes widen. What? Who? Who? He asks, but Littlesprout's already almost completely gone. Suddenly he hears an echoing voice in his ear. Mason. He whips his body around to try to find his mother again, but his body collapses as he returns back to the apprentice den. By the time morning arrived, the rain had finally stopped. Mirrowstar leaped up onto her rock and called a clan meeting. Cats came out of dens and, if they were nearby, returned from hunting. ShadowClan had been doing very well under Mirrowstar. There were many cats in the clan, and lots of senior experienced warriors, as well as apprentices and kits. Deadheart, the medicine cat, was very experienced, and they almost never lost any cats from battle. Stormpaw and Bubblepaw were already awake when Silverpaw leaped to her feet. Oh, we're late! The 3 older apprentices knew what time it was, and all leaped out of the apprentice den. Just as they made it to the clearing, they could hear Mirrowstar speak. Today is a special day for some of our older apprentices. They managed to find a nice place up front to sit and looked up at their leader. Mirrowstar's gaze rested on the 3 apprentices sitting close together. Stormpaw, step forward, please. The black and white Tom's eyes lit up as he proudly stepped forward. Stormpaw, you have gained maturity and strength in your apprenticeship. Do you promise to be loyal to ShadowClan as a warrior? He spoke up loudly, fluffing out his chest. I'll fight and hunt for my clan until the end of my days, Mirrowstar. From this moment on, you will be known as Stormheart. Overcome with joy and pride, Stormheart turned around and smiled at his sister and friend, sitting back next to them. The clan all erupted with cheer. Stormheart! Stormheart! Next it was Bubblepaw's turn. She became Bubbleleap. Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly could be heard echoing around camp. Then silence. Mirrowstar spoke. Silverpaw, please step forward. It was finally time. She was a bit nervous, but walked up. Silverpaw, you have worked long and hard to earn your place as a warrior in ShadowClan. Do you swear your loyalty to your clanmates for the rest of your days? Silverpaw simply nodded and spoke. Yes! Mirrowstar nodded and continued. From this moment on, you will be known as Silverfern. May StarClan light your path. The meeting was over shortly after, and everything else was pretty uneventful. Mirrowstar had tasked them to go on a nightly border patrol as vigil, and said that they could talk to each other, just make sure everything looked okay. Once the patrol was almost over, they decided to stop by the pond and see if they could find some frogs to bring back for fresh kill. Silverpaw had picked up on some strange rogue scents as they walked, but it seemed like Stormheart and Bubbleleap didn't pick up on them, so she didn't mention it. Before long, they found the pond and began to hunt. Her ear quickly flicked as she looked around. She thought she saw Mason? Quickly standing to her paws, she looked at her brother and friend. I'll be right back, guys. Taking off, she began to follow the shadowy figure. It definitely looked like Mason, but it was hard to tell. It was so dark out. It felt like she had been walking all night. They didn't speak to each other. Mason seemed very concentrated on where he was going. The sky began to turn dark and the trees disappeared. Without saying a word, he crawled into a hole underneath a bush, seemingly vanishing. She quickly did the same and appeared on the other side. The trees began to take on an eerie reddish glow, and she made sure to keep up with her father, looking down as the river that flowed through this land was black. Whoa. I hope you can swim, he chuckled before slowly stepping into the water, his fur almost blending in. Silver Fern followed after him, her body slowly being covered by the water. Where are we? Mason stayed silent and simply slipped away into the darkness. She lost him for a moment, but then quickly found him sitting atop a rock. Welcome to the dark forest, he booms. Whoa, I have heard stories. She sat next to her father and looked up at him. Do you live here? Mason took a few moments to respond and simply nodded. Sometimes. She looks away for a moment and then back up at Mason. I see. They say that bad cats come here after they die. Not exactly. Only cats deemed unworthy by StarClan, he explained. Oh, that seems unfair. It is. Silver Fern stayed quiet for a moment, thinking. This was a lot to take in. Eventually, Mason broke the silence. You could always stay here, you know, with me. Her ears perked up. Really? But then slowly lowered as he responded, yes. I mean, that would be nice, but I'm finally a warrior, and Bubble Leap, and Stormheart. She thought for a moment. Can I think about it? She asked, looking up at her father. Of course, he said calmly. Okay, thanks. We've been busy with rogue attacks. I'll find time to think it over soon. Mason simply nodded as she stood to her paws. How is your brother? Mason asked. Good. Probably freaking out wondering where I am, she chuckled. I sorta ran off while hanging out with him. You should get back then, Mason responds. Yeah, she frowns. I'll see you soon, though. She quickly gives her father a nuzzle before leaping off, remembering the direction she came. Now get going, he commanded as he slowly faded into the darkness. On the way back, it began to rain and caused her to take a little longer, but eventually she made it back the next morning, right as another meeting was starting. She quickly squeezed in between Stormheart and Bubble Leap, just as Marrowstar began to speak. Rogues have tried to take our camp. Now we will show what it means to mess with ShadowClan, she hissed, and below her was a very beat-up, strange rogue. Is that a rogue? Stormheart said, as the rain began to pour down harder. Once the clan quieted, she continued. These rogues, dragging one forward, left behind by their so-called allies, will be our prisoners. Silverfern noticed that Bubblebeep had scooted closer to her. She gently wrapped her tail around her comfortingly. This was getting scary. Suddenly, Marrowstar tossed one of the rogues off of the high rock. They landed with a loud thud. There were gasps and hisses coming from the clan. Silverfern, Bubbleleap, Stormheart, you will go on patrol and search for these rogues' camp. Stealth only. Once we figure out where they all are, we will attack. The three young warriors all looked at each other. This seemed like a big mission for them, but Maristar probably wanted more of the experienced warriors in camp to protect it. So they all quickly turned and headed out of camp. The journey was not terribly long, but it was wet and kind of made everything miserable. But eventually they made it into WindClan territory and knew that the barn was somewhere around here. As they all got closer, they began to pick up stronger and stronger rogue scents. This is definitely where they were staying. The three of them stood on a fairly tall rock so they could see over the fence. Here we are, Stormheart said. This rain, Bubbleleap complained. Silverfern looked around. I don't see any, but I sure do scent them. They're probably all hiding inside. Stormheart nodded. Probably so. Well, Maristar said stealth, so just a quick look around? Yeah, that bush over there. Come on, guys. Sounds good, she says, as she follows them and leaps over the bush, when immediately they were confronted by a large rogue. Soot crept from her cover, sauntering up towards the young warriors. And what do we have here? Bubbleleap, Stormheart, and Silverfern all crouched down together underneath the bush, frozen. Bubbleleap was the first to speak. When suddenly Stormheart hissed, "Go, go, go!" and the three of them exploded out of the bush. Silverfern quickly darted off in the first direction she saw, figuring she could probably figure out a way to get out of here, when suddenly she was jumped on by another rogue. "Ah! She got me!" Silverfern yowled as this rogue, who was named Rabbit, unsheathed her claws, pressing down on Silverfern. Soot came running around the corner, chasing after Stormheart, who stopped when he saw what was happening to his sister. "Get off of her!" But there was nothing Stormheart could do, because immediately Soot dug her claws into Stormheart's shoulders, throwing him to the ground. Bubbleleap was the last warrior not to be pinned down, and she tried to fight, but she was no match for two grown rogues. Soot couldn't help but let out a chuckle. "You'll just make your situation a lot worse. Don't get feisty now. Or maybe he can go bye-bye," she said, tapping a claw on Stormheart's skull. "Please, just let us go," Silverfern begged. While Bubbleleap was distracted, the rogue named Rabbit leaned over and swiped at her head, attempting to knock her down. "The boss will love you. Now let's get into the barn," she said, dragging Stormheart's body towards the barn. Silverfern slowly wobbled to her feet as Soot and Storm were arguing a few fox lengths away. She carefully and slowly began to follow them, brushing up against Bubbleleap's pelt as she walked by and whispered, "It'll be okay, I promise." The group of them made it into the barn where, at least it was dry. Soot led them up to the top of the barn, where she forced them all three into a corner. "I'm going to need some names." She leaned forward towards Stormheart, her rotting breath on his ears. "We're just young warriors. We're no good to you," he sneered. "I just asked you, rat brain." "I'm Leap," Leappaw lied. Stormheart grumbled. Fine. I'm Hurricane Hiss," he said, trying to sound as convincing as possible. But Silverfern just simply said, "I'm Silverfern, let us go. She was hoping that if Mason had something to do with these rogues, maybe they would just let her go. There was a lot of back and forth arguing and hissing. Soot stalked over to Bubble Leap. You stink of Shadow Clan. What is your other name? Rabbit, who was pacing back and forth, was scratching and clawing at the floorboards, letting out a low snarl. Eventually, Soot had had enough. Oh, and you have a mouth on you, she hissed clearly towards Stormheart. Rabbit, why don't you pull him aside? We don't want anyone making plans. Rabbit let out a snarl, walking over and picking up Storm by the scruff, dragging him away. Be safe, Silver Bubble, he frowned before being dragged off. Silverfern wanted to get up and fight, but she knew it was pointless. Suddenly, Sootstar turned around. I'm grabbing a snack. Don't go anywhere. I have my eyes on you. After Rabbit tossed Storm into the corner, she smirked sinisterly. You do nothing but hiss. Did your clan not teach you how to fight? Of course I can fight. I'm a warrior. His fur bristled. And if I could, I would, he glared at the she-cat. You look nothing more than an apprentice. She couldn't help but laugh. I'm a young warrior, he snapped back, trying to defend himself. But I know how to fight. And one day, I'll prove that to you. You'll see. Oh, really? The way you act, you'll be dead before you can even prove anything. He sighed. You can hurt me, just don't you dare hurt my sister or Bubble. Silverfern couldn't help but listen to the argument her brother was having with that rogue, but at least it seemed like they weren't fighting yet, so she would stay put. We just need to stay calm and wait, she said, nuzzling Bubble Leap. I hope everyone at camp is okay too. I am just happy you're okay, she meowed and nuzzled Silverfern back. I'm sure everyone at camp is okay. We will get through this together, I promise. Bubble Leap purred. If you say so. Silverfern was honestly exhausted, and she simply laid down and curled up, an ear still open and listening in case she needed to fight, but for now she would try to get some rest. Bubble Leap had decided to stay awake and stared longingly at the open barn door as she watched as a new cat appeared. A young, almost all-white she-cat carefully came up to the second floor and sat next to Soot. Soot was bent over, half chewing on a rat, picking at it with mild disappointment. Huh? Oh, North, you're back. Hello, Soot. I was told you needed me, miss. Soot scoffed. I guess I could put you to use. She sat up, tilting her head far to the side. Go take Rabbit's job. She might be going soft on him. Thank you. You won't regret it. I can handle it, she purred, excited to finally be old enough to help. Leaping to her paws, she slowly made her way over to where Rabbit was holding one of the prisoners. As North approached, she heard a loud thump and the sound of hissing. Turning the corner, she could tell that both cats had been fighting from the blood. Rabbit! Hey! She tried to quickly get her fellow rogue's attention. Rabbit grumbled and begrudgingly let go of the warrior. As Stormheart moved away, she hissed, "I'm not finished yet." North quickly stood in between them. "Sud said that you need to go take a break, and I'll watch him for now. Orders." "Now, if it was me, I would let you stay, but you know how Soot gets." "Fine," she said, giving Stormheart a sly smirk before padding off. North, now relieved, turned around to face this mysterious warrior. "Are you okay?" Hi," Stormheart said, somewhat startled. Yeah, thanks." He glanced away. "No problem. She has a bit of a temper, but means well. Sometimes." North chuckled. All that came out of Stormheart's mouth was, "Who are you?" "I'm North. And you?" "That's a pretty name. I'm Stormheart, a newly made warrior." "Oh, a warrior, huh?" She couldn't help but blushing slightly. "Let me guess. The clan that lives near frogs?" "How could you tell?" He looked surprised. "I've been learning all about the enemy clans. One lesson was that one of the clans smells of mud and frogs." "The proper name is Shadow Clan, but yeah, I guess you could say that." "Oh, Shadow Clan. The leader around here don't like teaching us the real names." "Well, we don't all smell like mud and frogs." He looked away, embarrassed. North immediately picked up on his embarrassment. "Well, not like you. Well, a little, but it's not a bad thing." She chuckled. Stormheart couldn't help but chuckle back. "I guess so. So, I've been hearing a lot about this leader." You can tell there's a little tension in the air as the scene fades to white. You now see Littlesprout sitting in front of you. Hi guys! So I really hope you liked this episode. It was so much work. There were so many scenes we had to redo. This was pretty scripted and planned out in my private server. And so I'd love to let me know what you guys think. You know, do you like this where it's a little bit more structured, or do you kind of like other of my older videos like Elsa where it was completely unplanned? Honestly, I'll probably end up doing both. I'll continue this series where it's planned, and then I'll do standalone movies that are unplanned completely. But I tried a bunch of different voices because I thought it was fun, so you know, I hope it's not too cringy. This is all just for fun and mostly for me, but other people like it, so yeah, okay, that's all I'll say. Look out for next week where we will have part 3, 4, something, the next part. Okay, bye guys.